This one here's for my peoples in a promised land that never planned to free you. Designed to keep you curled in the feeble. Stay strong, brother, we need you. This one here's for my peoples in a promised land that never planned to free you. Designed to keep you curled in the feeble. Stay strong, sister, we need you. Toast and cheers abundant, my dear beloved, truly lovers. Taking the view and just admire the beauty of us. Rich in pigment, in spirit and accomplishments. Not the monoliths synonymous with them pop.
Hello, everybody.
What's going on? What's going on?
Late. I'm SP, and welcome to Powaful Impact. This is our first live. Yay! Today we have Thought Provoker.
How y'all doing? Peace. Peace.
And we have KG from DC from the You Don't Know podcast.
Thank you for the invite. So happy to be here.
And then we have Delroy Lindo Jr.
What's up? Thanks for having me.
And we have the man behind the blue wall now.
What's up? Powerful impact. Boom from the cannon.
So today I just wanted I wanted to focus on Black men. And the reason I wanted to focus on Black men because I think there's a lot of misinformation that goes around about Black men, especially in our own communities. And so I just wanted to focus our first show on giving Black men a voice. So according to the Brookings Institute, on many social and economic levels, Black men fare the worst, not only more than white men or white women, but also Black women. Black men have a different social reality from Black women. 40% of white people 40% of white people believe that almost all Black men are violent. They're more likely to be stopped by the police. They're more likely to be arrested. They're more likely to be convicted, and they're more likely to be killed by law enforcement. So I wanted to have a show that was just about Black men, because although as Black people, we all experience racism, for Black men, it is way different than it is for Black women. So I wanted to start off with just talking a little bit about just the education gap, right? So 28% of Black men, they have bachelors, right? 30% of Black women have bachelors. 40% of white men have bachelors, and 50% of white women have bachelors. And that is a lot to do with affirmative action, because the biggest beneficiary of affirmative action are not Black people or minorities, it is white women. 4% have masters. 4% of Black men have masters. 13% of white women. Huh?
You said 4%?
4%. 4% of the population of Black men have masters.
master's degrees.
13% of white women, 9% of black women, and 8% of white men. Young black men are really poorly served by the education system. And you guys experience, have you experienced any differential treatment when it came to being educated, even through elementary school on up?
That's a loaded question.
Right.
Speaking for lower education, excellence isn't expected of you in general. Getting by is, especially if you ever done anything athletic, anything skill based. People always praise you for that over your grades. That's one thing. But I don't know. I did come from two parents who graduated college. One with a secondary degree. It's not a master's. My father was a lawyer, but my mother was an educator. But I did not finish college. Actually, in the process of going back to college, hopefully soon. But that was expected of my family. But it wasn't an expectation of anyone else outside of that. Like, I mean, it's like, yeah, you go to college. Okay. So what are you gonna do? I don't know. Figure it out. Okay. You know, a lot of us get caught up in having to pay money and have to pay for a place. You have to pay for a car. You have to pay for whatever it is. But a good life is more of an expectation for you than actual education excellence. Like, it's just a thing.
Right. You know, and I guess just to piggyback off KG, you know, I wasn't able to finish my college degree for, like, you know, some of the economic reasons. I was a first generation college student. I came from teenage parents. My mother was 15 when she had me. My dad was 14. So I didn't really have this, I guess, the background or the prior knowledge to navigate, you know, just the bureaucracy of like college. Well, no, not college, but just like, you know, like the financial aid and all the applications, and just really understanding it. Because even though I didn't get a chance to finish, and I was like this close, I'm actually like a few credits shy of my bachelor's. I had to leave school, and so just not really having like the economic support, because I had to leave for financial reasons. So just not having the economic support that I needed in order to finish, because my great grandmother, she was the one who really guided my path into college, and she was the one who helped me with all that stuff. And she actually passed away tragically during my, I guess you would say it would be like my senior year or junior year, and things kind of fell apart after that. But also to speak to another point that KG made, just, you know, people encouraging, because I grew up, growing up, I played football. But looking back in hindsight, I feel like I was probably a smarter kid than I was like actually good at football. I was decent. I think I was an above average athlete. If you're above average, that means obviously you're better than, like, you know, the average individual. But usually great athletes are the ones who, like, you know, go to Division I programs and end up turning pro. So sometimes I look back and I think about like just all the encouragement I got, you know, for my athletic skills. But I was also like an inquisitive child. Like, I used to read. I started writing like little short stories, you know, when I was like 7 years old. But I felt like the athletic side was encouraged a little bit more. And that's not like a judgment on, like, you know, the people around me. It's just that when we see like, you know, a potential for like athletic greatness, we go all in, and we push that because it's seen as a way out. But we gotta view education just the same. And I'm a product of like the public school system. So and we know what that entails.
Yeah.
Public education in this country is just woefully underfunded and undersupported. And that's rooted in a lot of the poor institutional functions in this country. So
To add to what Lindo Jr. was talking about, I kind of lived, to personalize my experience, I kind of lived the everybody hates Chris existence, to where, my parents, my dad worked at the post office 40 years, like never took a day off. Like, if you want to call it Protestant work ethic, you can, but it was some, stronger than that. He would drive from the city to where I'm at now, which is where I'm going to get my stuff in my storage, in this town called Port Jervis. And it was like when the property value of New York City was going up, a lot of people went towards the Hudson Valley. A lot of, two-parent households, you'll see a lot of that up here. They moved up here, and we'll ask them what school in the city you've gone to, things like that. So when we get here, we're used to a certain way of being taught. We're used to the curriculum that's a little different and maybe a little harder for us. It's harder to relate to the classmates because it's predominantly white kids in your classroom. You can't relate. They're so juxtaposed, to the area in which you grew up in most of your life. So when I got taught by a lot of these teachers, they didn't really understand me. They put a label on you early that I got, because I wasn't really interested in the curriculum. I was an autodidact. I read a lot, did a lot of reading on my own. And my dad was a product of a segregated school. My dad was born in 39, 1939. So he was a part of a segregated school. So college for him was like the be all end all. He didn't see past that, and on my father's side of my family, all the men have degrees, or one went to the Navy. Somebody has a master's. Like, my other uncle worked for Texaco. He was the CEO for Texaco, just retired. And like, there's this pressure to go to college, finish college. It just wasn't my path for me. So I learned more through, being out in situations in the field, of study. I didn't, college for me was regurgitation sometimes, but it had its benefits, and I had like scholastic opportunities to do so, through athletics to pursue collegiate, a degree. But I finished early. I went to work. It's just for me, like, there was definitely a curve that we felt like we didn't reach up to, not even intellectually, but you know neighborhood wise and demographics wise. They just weren't for me. So with the educational gap, I can see how somebody, even if you take the person out of the area, sometimes they do not flourish because the environment that they're in at the present moment doesn't like foster, proper learning. They could be worried about, more things outside of their control as opposed to their
Yeah.
education.
And when you think about the education system, I think about the guidance counselors. Were any of you ever approached by the guidance counselor about what you needed to go to college and how to fill out the financial aid paperwork, or even how to take those tests to get college admission? Did it seem like that was even a priority for the schools?
Well, I was gonna say like, well, luckily, like I went to like I attended public school from K all the way through ninth.
Mhm.
And like I said, due to my athletic abilities, I transferred to a Catholic school for my last 3 years of high school, and so when I went from public to Catholic school, it was a whole different world.
Mhm.
Circumstances were different, class sizes were smaller, and we did in fact receive, a great deal of support from guidance counselors, and also have, my grandmother around to help me out with that process too. But I'm sure it would have been a lot different had I stayed in public school. A lot of my friends who were still in public school, I remember like, just asking them about like, is the school assisting you with like navigating, um, higher education, and are they telling you about your options? Are they, in any way trying to prepare you to pursue higher education? And in a lot of cases, they weren't really getting that support that they needed. And a lot of people were actually interested in going to college and furthering education, but they just didn't really know how to go about doing it. And
Mhm.
if you come from a family where not a lot of people went to college, you're interested in going to college yourself, you're kind of left hanging.
Yeah.
And also, like, let me just play this out. So, like Delroy, I also went to a Catholic school, um, and it's basically college prep. When you go to a Catholic school, it's college prep laid out for you. But
Mhm.
understand that it's college prep in terms of like uh, like an auto line. Like they get more props and more money based off of you going to college. Not about
Mhm.
what you're going to do when you get there. Not about are you going to handle your credit right. Not about how are you going to understand how to be a college student, but about excellence in terms of just being smart. Not like, hey, I need to get you in there. But
Mhm.
even that being said, in the DC area where I grew up, where I went to college, where I went to high school, what saved me was two black men. One was an English teacher, a gay black English teacher who came in, I want to say my sophomore year or sophomore junior year, and the other was the vice principal who was also black. Next to that, I don't think I had any black teachers. Um, the English teacher I took his class my sophomore year, I think, and
Mhm.
he pulled me to the side. He said, "Yo, what's you're smart. What's up with your GPA?" Like, man, I don't know. I'm just doing. He's like, man, look, give me two semesters, 3.0s. I'll get you a National Honor Society. Okay. I went, did that. He got me on National Honor Society. That's without him and his impetus. I don't know that I would have cared as much because I just assumed I would go to college. I didn't assume I would go to the greatest HBCU in the world, North Carolina A&T. But I did. But I knew I would go to college. But that
Mhm.
didn't. What does that mean? So I don't want to make it sound woe is me. I do want people to understand that opportunities were there. But again, what do you want to do? I'm coming out of the crack era in '91, graduating high school, thinking that I want to work in music. Great idea. I did it for a long time, but again, my mind wasn't on, hey, you can do that while you go to college. I got to
Mhm.
college, started networking, expanding my black book of names and information to understand different people in different places. All of that. I was excellent study at that. But what I didn't do is focus on covering my own back with education. And
Mhm.
that's my fault. Or it's just my existence. I can't even say it's a fault. This is what it is. And a lot of people from my area, DC area, focus more on working for the government in different ways than they do in terms of making a living. My wife went directly to the government, has been working for a certain agency for 20 plus years, like 25 years. Makes
Mhm.
more than most people in America. with only a high school degree and 1 year of college. So it kind of depends on where you are. Education alone is not what it is, but like Delroy was saying, like it's just an understanding in some places that yeah, you're gonna go to college, but not necessarily where you should go, what you should do, what majors work for Black men, what's available to you, and the services afterwards.
And having the support, just like you had that English teacher come in, he took an interest in you, and I'm pretty sure that at least helped, you know, set a fire under you a little bit.
Tremendously.
But and also just to like speak to another thing you said, like how people in the DC area like go for a lot of those government jobs. I mean, that's across the board. Like the federal government, the post office. It's one of the biggest employers of Black people because it's kind of a way to just you're gonna get a decent salary. You're gonna get good benefits. You know what I mean? And it is a path. I mean, I'm pretty sure like your wife in particular, she probably like has like one of the good jobs that requires a college degree. But there's a lot of government jobs that you can get where you don't even need the degree, and you can still earn a decent living. So that in a lot of cases, it's a safe haven for certain for Black people. I know for a fact, I know so many people that like, that work for the post office, they're mail carriers or even getting a city job. Like that's a big thing here in Philly, is like getting a city job. Like you want to get
that was the next point I was going to make.
So you can get them good benefits. You know what I mean? Like most of the city workers in this town, are, is Black folks. So.
Same here in DC, you got the metro workers, you got people who, just work at the subway, drive a bus, whatever. Like that's a job that'll take you forever. You're gonna retire from there. You're not gonna quit Metro to go and do whatever it is because you're gonna make better money doing what you're doing. You're gonna always be secured, and you're great. So yeah.
Yeah, that's totally different in Texas. It's totally different in the South.
Can I ask a question? Do you fellas in here, do you think that placates us, like makes us not become entrepreneurs, makes us not inclined to become professionals? Do you feel like that's a way for them to kind of, well, whoever them or they are, do you think that's the way to pacify us? Like, here you go. Do that.
I don't see it as such because until you get there, you're gonna need, some type of money, some type of investment money, and why not balance both? I think you can still maintain career paths. Like, for example, I do music, but also work in public health. It's a salary job. It's not a 40-hour a week job. You have people's lives go on past Monday through Friday, and it's intense casework. You got to go into the projects in the Bronx and go talk to them and go take them to their appointments. It's very time consuming. However, I still take my salary job seriously and go pursue music at the same time. And I don't think it is placating us or pacifying us at all. I think in some instances it's helping us further our forays into entrepreneurship.
Yeah, and I think I think it's it's a systemic thing. I just think it's a case of, I don't think it's placating. It's just that all these other pathways aren't necessarily open to us. So in a lot of cases, again, when you're coming from like, a disadvantaged background, you want to either get the quickest or easiest route to gaining some stability, right? So in a lot of cases, working for the post office for 40 years or working for the city for 40 years may have been your easiest path to gaining that stability because either you wasn't taught about the other different pathways or you just didn't have the support to go in those directions. So I don't think it's placating. I just think that there's just a limited number of pathways. So you just take what you can get so you can get that stability.
1000%. I don't think we're placated. I do understand that, we live in a world now that is strong on entrepreneurship. And I think
Mhm.
lots of people, especially city people, I don't want to make it sound different, are always thinking, hustle, hustle, hustle. And entrepreneurship is a hustle. It's a way to get your hustle into becoming a business for you. And again, I'm older, so at 48, when I was coming out of school, when I was in school, entrepreneurship wasn't really pushed. Um, it was really thinking you had to work for somebody, or you were going to thought, what I'm saying, we're going to make music. Music was the thing that always appealed to me in terms of the business. So, but I wasn't placated into that. And people have to understand education is not higher or highest of education levels is not necessary for everybody. It's not even a goal for most people. And those of us of certain intelligence levels who simply decide not to, even though I failed at mine. It wasn't anyone else's fault. But those of us who are smart enough to do things but deciding not to isn't a failure either. It's just simply, as you're looking at those numbers, 4% is crazy to hear. But when you hear that the high is 9, understand what perspective you're dealing with here. Like,
Well,
if the man,
you also have to understand that that the number of people in that population.
Mhm.
So yeah, the percentage may be 9 or 13, 13%, but 13% of millions is
13% of the 60% of the population is a lot more. I absolutely
yeah,
understand what
it's a
you're saying.
lot
Yeah,
more than the 13% that we
1,000%.
represent.
1,000%. I do understand what you're saying. But what I mean is
Yeah.
in terms of percentages of people who have the opportunity at educational excellence on that level. That's what I mean to say. It's not
Yeah.
when you're looking at people, just look for person by percentages, then you're like, okay, so let me assume that 20% of the people were capable of master's degrees. How many of those got caught up in life? And now that's when you get into the racism portion of it or the situational portion of it. Okay, what happened? Did you have a kid at 14? Were you able to support mom when she got sick? What happened when dad died at 55? How did your situations change? You know what I mean? That's what prevents a lot of people from doing things. It's not necessarily that you don't have even the money thing. You can
Mhm.
find the money, but once you get caught up in that job and you're making some money, are you going to stop now and then go back to school, or are you going to add that onto your work time to go back to school? Those are life decisions that people make. That depends on how life is coming at you.
Yeah. Well, for me, I graduated the top 2% in my class. I've never talked to a guidance counselor. No one ever told us anything about college. We had no earthly idea how to even apply. Um, I went through public school. Um, so I think there's a significant difference in education past the Mason Dixon line than it is below it.
I mean, yeah. Listen, at the end of the day, I think that it's all institutional failures. The
Yeah,
system. By nobody like speaking to you about college. At a public school, that's a prime example of the system failing our children. You
yeah,
know,
Systemic
and
racism.
I think that's like a larger conversation about like how public education is treated, and why public education is the way it is, particularly in areas that serve a lot of African Americans, a lot of Black people.
and it's way different when you are able to go to a Catholic school than it is when you go to a public school where they arrest you for any small um, act of disobedience. You end up with a juvenile record before you even get to high school. Some people even before they get out of elementary school. And for Black boys, that number is high. So, especially in the public school systems across the country. And so, I think in most cases, it's not even it's not even an option anymore because they have it. So the school to prison pipeline is a real thing, and they actually build the prisons by your test scores.
Yeah, and just another thing, you know, the racism of standardized testing, you know,
Yeah,
and just the fact that because you know standardized testing doesn't really measure intelligence. It's all based on what you've been exposed to, you know.
yeah,
So it's not measuring, you know, your intellectual capacity. It's just testing you on material that you should have been exposed to, but you probably wasn't. But they're still putting this test right in front of you, you know. So if just I don't know, for example, if calculus is on a standardized test, but they're not teaching you calculus in your school, that's unfair to the person taking the test. And that's what they mean when they say, like, you know, standardized testing is racist.
yeah. You're
It's a,
talking about calculus. Hell, I had trouble when they asked me what the hell a salsa was for. I'm like, what the hell is a salsa for? You put your toast on it. I don't know what the fuck you do with a salsa. You know, that's what we
Like,
did with a salsa. We ate cake off of it. I don't know what the salsa's for, but it was on the test, and you have to pass that test. And most people who don't even have a salsa. So yeah, it's I think standardized tests are bullshit because it's a lot of things that you're not even privy to.
Right.
go ahead, thought.
no, I was just saying how I find it funny you mentioned standardized testing. Like I had like a story about that. I was actually in night school. I went to night school. I got kicked out of school, and they had a standardized test for U.S. history. Now, because I've been indoctrinated with U.S. history facts over and over and over again, I didn't need to study to pass that test. Why? Because I've been taught about Thomas Jefferson and George Washington and the preamble and the Constitution and all this stuff. And they're like, how did you get, you know, because of how I acted in school, they kind of compared it to my intelligence and automatically assumed, you know. So based off that, they were so surprised that I took absolutely no practice tests and were acing standardized testing, and it became sort of a Finding Forrester experience. You know, like he could play basketball, he can also like he secretly maybe smart a little bit because I wasn't interested in the curriculum. It was a
Mhm.
Eurocentric curriculum.
Yeah.
I had a Southern background with my father, and all he preached was, you know, he loved Farrakhan, he loved Malcolm, you know, all these folk heroes that he had from the 50s and 60s. So I'm kind of absorbing that energy, and it's
Mhm.
making me rebellious at the same time, if you can,
Yeah,
you know, understand. So yeah, standardized testing is only to measure regurgitation for information, little factoids that many of it is not real world applicable at all.
You know,
yeah,
and I want to add on to that real quick because we talk about standardized testing. You know, we talk about calculus, a little bit of calculus being on there and everything else, a little geometry maybe. Honestly, can anyone in this room tell me the last time they used algebra in their life? I'll wait.
Never.
I'm a
Okay,
nurse
when
though,
did you use
so
it?
Not
that's
a
different.
one.
No, when did you use it? So I just want but
Yeah,
if
I'm
it's
a
one
nurse
out,
though.
if
It's different for me
no,
because I have to
yeah, that's true. That's
calculate
true.
drip
That's true.
rates and all of that
Okay,
stuff. So it's
right,
just a
cool.
little different for me because Of course, you know, we
absolutely.
not go. Texas ain't gonna buy real machines that do it for you. You still have to use a calculator.
You're
But
in the
that, it, but
4%. You're in the
right,
4% with
you're in
that
the
SP.
4%. But
Definitely in the
even with that,
minority.
if you had never done it in school, would you have learned it on your job?
Um, yes, because I was a geek and I really like math. So I actually took calculus in the ninth grade.
No, but
And I already went
that's
through
a great thing.
algebra too, but
I don't
it's
want
just
black people,
just because of me. I just love math. So,
and I feel you on that. And I passed calculus in college. I'm not bemoaning any of that. What
but
I'm
I
saying is,
understand exactly what you're talking about because my sister was like, I am taking basic math and then I'm taking introduction to algebra and then no, I'm taking pre-algebra,
pre-algebra.
introduction to algebra, and then algebra. And those are my 3 years of math.
Right, and that's public school.
Yeah.
I think
You go to Catholic school, you almost have to do more than that, and that's fine. But I'm just making a
Mm-hmm.
point that we're talking about standardized testing.
Right.
My
Mm-hmm.
father was a lawyer, never needed calculus in his life. Now, again, he's one of those people who has secondary education that secondary degree that wouldn't fall into the numbers that you're talking about because he doesn't have a PhD. He also took side classes at Harvard. None of that is going to fall into those numbers. But I'm just making a point to understand that standardized testing is basically a good way of saying common sense for someone to be able to get to a certain level. Now you understand when you talk about standardized testing, we're not talking about common sense, and common sense is not common. There are intelligent people around all over the place. But if you were looking for a standard of intelligence, you would do something to look for that. You're not
Right.
looking for that. You look for people who can, like somebody said, regurgitate thought said, to regurgitate information quickly to someone just to show, yeah, I was in the same room you were in. And thought having that autodidactic memory can actually just do that easily.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So you just have the ability to do something. It's like, yeah, I can do more than one thing. And the Fine Forest, little relation is completely perfect for what they think of black men. It's like, oh, you're athletic and you're smart. I don't know what to do with you.
Yeah.
I'm either going to use you as my pony to show that how special he is, or I'm just going to, look at you as dangerous.
Yeah, like you speak so well, like complex. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
Huey in the Boondocks at the garden party, like when he's like,
Yeah.
you speak so well, and it's like, what does that mean?
Backhanded
What
compliment.
what are you trying to imply? Like exactly, so
But you know what it means.
little
It
undertones and yato. I know exactly what it means.
you
I just want to
sound
know
oh
if
right.
they
the
That, that
Negro reads.
yeah,
What
that's a
does that mean
exactly.
to them?
microaggression.
Yeah, exactly.
That is
It
a
is
clear
exactly what
example
it
of
is.
a microaggression.
And they do that all the time, especially when I'm writing an email and then they're like, okay, why is this email constructed like this? What, I don't understand these words. And it's just like, it's English. Like, I thought we were in a business environment, therefore I'm using the terminology. Okay, all right, I guess. So it's always microaggressive and like the most finite ways. Like you don't even, sometimes I didn't go back to realize like, oh, so this is the microaggressive like tactic you're using as
Yeah.
why is your email like formatted like this? It didn't need to be. It can be stripped down so we can understand it. And insulting intelligence.
Yeah. So, let's talk upward mobility, right? So, black and white women have similar rates of intergenerational mobility. However, white men raised by low income families are in the top 40% of income. Uh, so that's compared to 19% of black men. Um, even though 20 even though 20% of Black women end up faring worse economically, just in terms of household income compared to white people, it's even though that is true, most of those households are single parent households, which also has a direct effect on Black men growing up in intergenerational poverty. When you think about those kind of numbers, and there's always this constant battle of Black women making less than Black men, which is true. However, I don't think people are looking at the effect that has on the community as a whole, and especially on Black boys that are raised in those environments. So, what do you think can be done to change that kind of trajectory?
I can speak for me and tell you that where I grew up, it's the opposite. Black women make more than men. Now, the highest earning men make way more than the average Black woman. That being said, the feeder system of, like I said, government jobs and things like that are way stronger and easier for women. It's way easier for a young woman with a high school degree, with a high school diploma, to be able to walk in and become a low federal worker and then move
Mhm.
up. And like you said, you were talking about the Mason-Dixon line. Mason-Dixon line in Delaware. It's a lot lower that we want to separate where things change, because I'm in the South technically.
Mhm.
People don't think of DC as the South, but my family, who are on both sides from South Carolina, completely different life. Like they are not looked at in the same way. Now I'm taking my family out of it, but the areas that they live in,
Mhm.
people aren't thought to go and get those extra educations. Men are looked at as more dangerous. So again, if you're just female, it's seen as safer, even if you are Black. Now, how they're
Mhm.
gonna treat you there, that's a whole different bag of marbles in that. But the opportunities are more available to females than they are to males because, like you said at the beginning, what they think about you,
Mhm.
is completely different.
So, how do we change that dynamic? Because
Sorry, y'all. I
it,
keep having technical difficulties.
it's fine. Even in the media, you are more likely to see a Black male villain. You're more likely to see a Black male aggressor, and less likely to see a solid Black family. You're less likely to see a positive Black male role model. Do you think that has anything to do with the perception of how Black men are seen across the globe in general?
Oh, big time. I think media depiction plays a huge role in the way people look at anybody. I mean, particularly Black men, because the imagery has just been so negative, and they've had certain things drilled into their minds about Black men that it's hard. It can be difficult for them to see us in any other way. And I feel like, I mean, that's changed a lot over the last, I guess, 15 some odd years.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly over like the last few years. Like even with commercials now, I feel like I'm starting to see them try to like wedge in more Black people, even though you'll see like a lot of interracial couples and a lot of these ad campaigns now. That's another topic. I hope we'll get to discuss that later. But No, I think that the way we're depicted in the media plays a huge role. It's kind of like life imitating art, art imitating life. It goes around and around.
To piggyback off Delroy, it's like the movie Bamboozled and movies like that. The characters, the images that they portray black men as. I read Brainwashed by Tom Burrell, and he showed a chronological history of where they would start in print media and depict black men as savages and mischievous and everything else. And now it like Delroy said, it's getting better, but before it was more overt, then it got covert, and now it's like inclusion based to where everybody meets a happy medium with commercials as far as dealing with us. But as far as imagery, I feel like it's the most detrimental and it's the most powerful.
Yeah, it's crazy how because you're really just talking about old school slavery and racism and their ability to look at us uh, as a worker as opposed to as a human being, being 3/5 of a human being idea. And then you look at just that extending, it just extends out. You know what I mean? It's not like they're, oh, well, when they made movies and TVs, they decided it was going to look different. No, they didn't. What they did was they took all their assumptions and moved those forward into the way that they're going to show you on TV. And growing up in the era before cable, I look at stuff and I'm saying like, oh, I remember when there was just one black friend on TV on Fame, and it happened to be the gay dude who could dance. Okay, he's the friend on TV. Or there was the one thug that was a friend on TV. You saw a black guy with a bald head in the 70s, that meant that he was a gangster or a killer. It meant that he was dangerous.
Can't forget the magical Negro.
Oh, and then the magical Negro. The W.E. Du Bois of his time, wherever it is. It's that one, and it's like, oh, see, they can do this, but he's never the CEO in any of those pictures or those whatevers. He's just the one he's the Uncle Nearest of his time. Like,
Right.
oh well, I capitalized on him because I found him because I believe in black people. No,
Right.
you don't. You just found the magical Negro.
Yeah, and I think just in terms of like the media depictions, I think what ends up happening is because I think it's almost like two extremes, right? It's like it's either like we're thugs or we're in these downtrodden circumstances, or we're like these super achievers. There's a lot of like, if you notice, like especially in the '90s, I feel like this started to take hold late '80s, early '90s. I mean, I'm not that old, so I can't say I remember the late '80s, but in the '90s, you would always see like a lot of black judges, or shows. Like a lot of the judges would be black, a lot of the lawyers would be black. I don't think that the middle ground is depicted enough. And I think that what happens, I think a downside to that is in a lot of cases, black people and black men, we get held to the exception and not the standard. So if I'm from North Philly, and I don't have a lot of support, I don't have a lot of people pushing me into a path towards like being a lawyer, but you still want to hold me to the standard of Barack Obama.
Yeah.
So I think again, it's detrimental when you hold everybody to the standard of, again, the exception. Barack Obama is the exception to the rule of like the average person. So I think that if the middle ground was depicted a lot more in the media, like people coming from, you don't necessarily have to be in extreme poverty, and you don't necessarily have to be like an extreme achiever. But if we saw that middle ground a little bit more often, because I feel like I was the middle ground. Like I didn't grow up in like abject poverty. Yes, I did grow up like having food stamps, but I had like a decent family around me, a decent support system. So like just depicting the whole entire spectrum and not just the extremes.
yeah, I think it's a lot of times we miss we miss people showing. Everybody wants to show the rapper, but nobody wants to show the person who mixes and masters it. The person, um, the
Even just the
person who,
entourage, even just the
yeah,
entourage, sis. Like that's
the,
that's the crazy thing about it, is that nobody shows the. First of all, middle class is not exciting to white America in as far as black people go.
mm,
Even on TV, you'll see white middle class, and they
mm,
make it look like it's Friends. Let's take Friends for example. None of those people should have been able to afford anything that they were living in. I don't care how many
yeah,
roommates they had.
Not
There's
at
no way
all.
you can live like that.
Right.
Where they lived, there's no way they can live like that.
In
But
Manhattan.
that's, yeah, 1,000%. But they make it look like, oh, it's just so fun to be average as a white person. And you know what? That's how white America took it. It's fun to be average in white America. So it's the cushion between aiming for Barack Obama as a black person, and then when you fall into the middle, it appears like you're a loser. You feel like you're a
yeah,
loser when you're just, no, you might be average in terms of money, but you are in the top 10% of black people in America. You just don't understand that there's still a 1% in every group that is going to be puffy. Everyone else whose household is making over 100 grand. Do you know what you mean
mm,
to the people who live in Minnesota, the people who live in Nebraska, Wyoming?
yeah,
You are killing them. But again, your bills are high as hell. Theirs are low as hell. So don't they basically make 100 grand, making 60 grand? It's just a different thing. But your perception as a black man coming out of certain situations looks like, damn, I got to do more. I got to do this. I got to do that. That pressure is different from what education or anything else will put on you. It's about what you think you should look like if you're a successful black man, and just simply living a decent, good life should be the aim for everybody, because that's where happiness lives. Happiness doesn't
mm,
live in the hills. Happiness doesn't live in the hills with lots of money. Happiness lives
mm,
with being comfortable with yourself. And that's a mental image issue that we have as black men in terms of finding our standard of happiness.
Right. And real
yeah.
quick
I
though,
think
because
it's a
I think
different. Go ahead.
nah, because I think you said you mentioned something important when you mentioned like the salaries and $100,000 thing. $100,000 works differently for a white person than what it does for a black person, based on the circumstances you're coming from, right? Because in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
cases, we got to help, support our families. Whereas in a lot of cases, they may have, a form of generational wealth or even just generational stability. It doesn't even have to be wealth, but just the fact that they don't always have to reach back and care for others the way that a lot of
Mm-hmm.
black people usually have to do, especially if you're one of the few people in your family who made it to like a professional level to where, you can make that kind of money.
And that's where home ownership comes into play when you talk about generational stability or wealth. Yes, generational wealth doesn't mean everybody is wealthy. It means that
Mm-hmm.
you can pass down either no debt or something to grow on. That's what it really means. That you can actually have a house that can go down to the next person in line. That when the cousin who acted a little nuts in high school has a place to stay, that you can give somebody a chance to find a job and help them with their first car note. Those simple little things that white people have done. That I have friends whose fathers went to Vietnam. The GI
Mm-hmm.
Bill. What did that do for white America? And what did that do for black America? And they were able to buy houses and do things when black people were being looked at as less than. Those
Yeah.
things are the things you pass on because they were able to buy a house, as opposed to living in certain cities. And it's like, okay, well, you coming from the projects, what are you passing down other than debt? You're not passing down anything other than a starter kit for you to be right here in debt. And it's not all about projects. I don't care if you had a rented place or rented land, but you own the house that was on it. Okay, what are you passing down? You have nothing to give that person other than the reflection of what you feel like are your woes that need to be things to be adding on to that person. And that's a
Mm-hmm.
hardship that we take mentally and financially throughout our generations.
And as a black man, how hard is that reality in
So
a world that expects you to have uh the Gucci bag and the Balenciaga shoes and I think sometimes even our own culture does a number on us, because I remember growing up that we had shows like with the Rock. He was a plumber. You know what I mean? We had
no, he was a
Fred
garbage
Sanford
man.
was
He
a
was a
trash
garbage man.
guy.
He was a garbage man. Rock was a garbage man in Baltimore.
Oh
Yeah.
my.
So when you look at stuff like, we had real life, um we had real life depictions um of we had real life depictions of people. We had real life depictions on TV shows to look at,
Of working class
and
people.
of working class people to garner from. Do you
Okay,
think that has been a disservice, that they've taken out all of these programs that were really vital to people being able to find jobs after school, after high school, that wasn't going to be a job at McDonald's. You could actually graduate. I graduated high school as a cosmetician and a certified nursing assistant.
Right. I think it's like this speaks to the larger economic issues in America, and just the fact that, I mean, college went from being, an intellectual pursuit to a means to an end in order to get to, the middle and upper middle class. I mean, there was a time in America where, a factory job could support a family, and your wife could stay home, and you had
Mm-hmm.
union support. Now obviously a lot of the unions were racist, and a lot of black people didn't always have opportunities in those
Mm-hmm.
fields. But again, there was a time in America where you it was easier to get to that middle class income, without having to like go to college. And then it's also a thing
Yeah.
of just the de-emphasis, the way we de-emphasized trades,
Yeah.
being a tradesman, working with your hands. I feel like nowadays, since college has become such a big business,
Mm-hmm.
people aren't filtered into the path of being a tradesman, and you can make a good living being an electrician, being a carpenter,
Yes.
doing
Being
HVAC,
a
welding,
mechanic. Shop was so
McKell,
big when I was
exactly,
growing
mechanic.
up.
And we don't emphasize those things because it's like it's all college, college, college. And I mean, college is great
always remember that Chris Rock said his
for
next door
people who
neighbor
can
was a
handle
dentist.
it, and people who can handle the work, and people who have the support to get there. But, but again, I just think it's about opening. Right, exactly. And then again, the outcomes are different, right? The outcomes are different, between white and black, because like KG just said, a regular ass dentist, not the greatest dentist in the world, is a neighbor to one of the greatest comedians of all time. So the outcomes differ.
Yeah. Um,
but,
Thought, what you got to
but it's
say?
also about like, you know, just opening people's eyes to all the different options they have. And then in America, like jobs, and the cost of
Mhm.
living. Um, I forgot the larger point I was trying to make. It's just different now.
Yeah.
Nah, I just wanted to piggyback off of those tradesman comments because my dad, worked with his hands, very intelligent man, but
But
hold on. Sorry about that. But as like having as it being adept with his hands, he wanted me um to ascend to something, further than what he thought he was, which was somebody who went to school, attained a master's degree. So that really spoke to like a self-conscious for about himself, like how he thought of himself as less than because he didn't have a college degree.
Um, when I'm just sitting here and thinking about COVID and the unemployment due to COVID, right? Black men have been affected by unemployment higher than any other gender or race. And actually, in September of 2021, Black men were 12.6% unemployed, as compared to 6.5% of white men. And these numbers are not including men who were incarcerated. This is just the basic people who are in the job market. So that's good. I'm looking at that, and then I am also leaning into life expectancy,
That's
because
the strong part.
Black men's life expectancy um, has a 9-year gap to white men. Uh, Black men are the most likely to die from COVID. 80 out of every 100,000 cases of Black men who have COVID die. Um, Black men's health does not improve with education level.
Hold up, did you say 80 out of 100 black men?
80 out of 100,000 Black men.
uh,
100,000.
100,000. Okay, okay.
I thought I
Yeah.
heard 80 out of 100
I,
too.
I I I thought I lost it for a second. I was about to go crazy. Like what?
Black men's health, it doesn't improve with education levels. Um, and that stems from a persistent devaluation of Black men. How does when you hear these kind of numbers and you think about how you how we've been taught about health in this country, or even in our own families, do you think that even as a people we're kind of doing ourselves a disservice with all of the different fears or and um even if they're well-based fears, they really are. But at some point, when do we have to actually take into consideration um, the science and or take into consideration the actual numbers in order to start moving these things in a different direction?
It's hard to get over medical apartheid. I tell you, and you know the numbers versus that history of mistrust of doctors, and I won't even say it as if it's like ancient history. It's not. It's happening today, presently, as we speak, and working in public health. You can definitely see how some of these people are mistreated by providers, by
Mhm.
you know, by their insurance companies kicking them off and having to go through all this litigious
Mhm.
stuff as far as the paperwork. So even when I ask members, have you been vaccinated and things, and they still have a mistrust, mainly because of the client, the partnership that the HMO has with your Medicaid, and you're sitting here as the care manager wondering, all right, where do I fit in all this?
Mhm.
As and it's at some raw point, as being so close to it, at some point then you feel like it's all economic, and you feel like you're a case study again. So
Mhm.
from that perspective, I can understand how one can be skeptical.
Yo,
And
SP, I got a question for you.
go ahead.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, KJ.
SP, I just want to ask this question. So, because when you bring up medicine, a person of my age always thinks of the Tuskegee experiment when we talk about like
Yeah.
COVID and things like that
Right.
and taking shots.
Right.
And then you bring in black men and especially black women with pain thresholds because the assumptive nature of white people about pain thresholds for Negroes has always been off. So they think that, oh no, you can take this. No, I can't. No, no, you'll be fine. No, I won't be fine. Ignore the person. Ignore the patient. Herman Cain died. Like, come on now. Like the biggest. I don't want to say that he was blowing the former president, but he was
Mhm.
sitting there riding his coattails, and this man died. You telling me that he couldn't have gotten the same cocktail that 45 got? It's just
Mhm.
mind blowing to me that we are always meant to be stronger, tougher, but not smarter than everyone else. That's all. I'm just trying to figure out like how that comes down as a nurse when you're looking at no doctor, she's uncomfortable, he's uncomfortable. They should have better. They should be better taken care of.
Yeah. It is why it's so important as Black people to understand that you are the consumer. You are not the they call you a patient, but you are the consumer. And if people aren't taking your issues or your problems or your pain or your symptoms seriously, you have the right to fire them. You have the right to look for a healthcare provider who is willing to work with you. And it's not always easy to do. And all skin folk and kinfolk, right? So sometimes you have
Preach.
to look outside and you have to find someone who's actually going to sit down and listen to you. And that just goes for healthcare in general. And you also have to take this into account. We are dealing with the healthcare system that is run by insurance companies. So yes, your doctor gets paid, but it depends on which company they're with, right? Because Medicare and Medicaid is going to pay them significantly less than Blue Cross Blue Shield. And Blue Cross Blue Shield may pay them significantly less than United Healthcare. And even though United Healthcare may pay them more, United Healthcare may take 8 months to pay for something that happened 8 months ago. So when you look at all these factors that are going into healthcare on top of the fact that you're just not feeling good, but your doctor also is thinking, how can I be more efficient? And sometimes being more efficient means double scheduling patients. You have 3 or 4 patients coming in every 10 minutes, and you spend 5 or 10 minutes with each patient and then get them on out of that. It's kind of like American healthcare system is not to get well. It is to treat symptoms. And until we change that, people are going to have to start advocating for themselves, which means you're going to have to take somebody with you to the doctor who can catch those things that you miss, who can make sure, okay, yeah, but wait a minute, I need to tell you this, or I forgot this. When you're in the hospital, someone needs to be there. She can't take that, and you're not going to give it to her, especially if you're too sick to speak for yourself.
But I guess do white people need to do the same thing? Because I mean, again, if the healthcare system is everything that you just said it is, which I believe that it is, that still doesn't explain why black people are having worse outcomes than our white counterparts.
Well, this is another factor also. We have the highest rate of being uninsured. So you're very careful about going to the doctor because it's an exorbitant amount of money. We normally don't go for the physicals or the checkups. We normally just go when we're sick. And sometimes when you just go when you're sick, it's a little too late for that. You also have systemic racism?
That's what I was going to say.
It is everywhere. It doesn't matter where we go, it's always there. It doesn't matter if you go, even if you go to a black doctor, there are sometimes black doctors who have this sense of superiority.
And there's an innate empathy for people that look like you. So if your doctor is white, if your doctor is Indian, if your doctor is whatever, they have an innate empathy for people that look like them. That will always be the case no matter what the field is. So we also got to put that into perspective.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true. But I also wanted to circle back right to your original question, because I think you was talking about just the COVID stuff, and I think that mistrust of the system and misinformation is a real dangerous cocktail.
Yeah.
I think that when you're distrustful of the system around you, and you're distrustful of mainstream information, mainstream science, it makes you more susceptible to a lot of the poor information that's circulating. And this is how you end up with, a lot of people taking their cues from, a random dude who makes YouTube videos over, a
Yeah.
lot of the experts and over a lot of the science. And then that's how people fall into, I just think, like, again, a lot of the opposition to, a lot of the stuff that's happening with COVID is, like, I just see people expressing a lot of confirmation bias, where you just want to dismiss all of the information that doesn't align with, your opposition, and then you run away with, those rare examples or the numbers that fall on the smaller end of the scale. So like
Yeah.
I said, misinformation and mistrust is a dangerous cocktail.
And it doesn't, it probably doesn't help when the powers that be make our spokespeople like the baby. And now there are people taking medical advice from rappers and singers and actors, and there are actually people who have spent their entire lives doing this. And this is the way I look. This is the way I looked at the vaccine. When I looked at the vaccine, it wasn't like they were like, "Come on, Black people, come get this vaccine," or "Come on, Hispanic people, come get this vaccine." Come on, Chinese people, we need you. Only y'all can come and get this vaccine. That is the difference between Tuskegee and COVID. Because everybody was dying. Everybody is dying. So if everybody is taking the same vaccine, and you're taking the same vaccine because a vial holds 3 to 4 doses. So if you have somebody with a vial of vaccine and it's a white person in front of you and a white person behind you, all three of y'all is getting it from that same vial. Right?
You're right, but I also think that Black people, because I can remember my trepidatious days of the vaccine. It wasn't that I wasn't going to get it, but I do understand that if I had an argument against it, it was okay. But when you rushed this through, because you had to rush it through to save lives, I'm not even arguing that point. When you did that, did you take into account the 60% of white people as being this worked well for them? Or did you also take into account the 13% of Black people in our physiologies being different and how it's going to affect us? And again, as someone who does read, who does watch the news, or at least follows news, because I don't watch a lot of regular terrestrial TV, but I do watch CNN, and not just CNN, but just like international news. I like to, wider berth of news. So I got comforted by understanding how things going in that place. The problem is that I don't know where other people are getting their news, because I have a good Twitter. I don't know about other people, but I actually have a good Twitter of Black people who read, Black people who are educated, Black people who understand what they're talking about. I can follow somebody else and look at who they follow and who they're retweeting, and I'm like, oh, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
And if you are surrounded by idiots, whether you are one or not, you're getting a hell of a lot of bad information.
Yeah.
And if that's what's making you afraid, I get it. I also understand that you probably don't know how to get out of that circle. And that's just a different thing. That it's really hard to be able to tell people the things you like are toxic to you. And that's a hard thing to tell people.
Yeah. It's a challenge. I've been fighting this challenge for a while. Just the miseducation and the misinformation. Because I'm sitting here now, fully vaccinated with COVID,
with a booster.
but I'm able to have this conversation and be on this live, and I can breathe, and I'm not in the ER.
Who knows
Because
what condition you'd be in if you wasn't vaccinated?
Well, she does
And
know.
boosted.
That's the funny thing. She absolutely knows exactly what condition she would be in.
yeah, so the thing is, yeah, you can still get COVID. But I think another part of the issue is how it was rolled out, because under the last administration and into this administration, it was rolled out as a vaccine, where you couldn't get COVID. And it has been studied, and they know that you can still get and pass COVID. You just won't most people just don't end up in the ER.
And you probably just won't die. Like, it's really
Yeah.
just about, if you get this, no, you can catch COVID. You can catch it, and especially with the Omicron, also known as Amarion. You can catch it easy. You can catch it easy, but
I'm so
you'll get
love my
past it
people.
so much fast. I know he had to hate the fact that he got popping on Twitter because of that. But for real, like, no, you can catch it easy, but you can get past it a lot easier because you are vaxxed. And they didn't sell that the right way, like you said. And
Yeah.
on top of that, people are hearing so many different things instead of one voice. And that's because 45 tried to lie to everybody. First of all, he knew about it 4 months at least before it even came out, didn't tell anybody, and then lied about everything he knew. And then when he caught it, he's sitting up there wheezing on national TV, acting like, no, I'm good, I'm strong, I'm great. No, you're not. You're lying to people. You're not telling people, no, this will kick your butt. And I got the best in the world. And I'm sitting here in this cold day looking like I'm about to die, not talking, knowing you love to talk, because you want to give a vision of strength to people and lie to your people. Now, that's a whole different thing. And I
And he
don't
referred
call
to it
him
as
by
the
his name.
Chinese virus.
The China virus. Oh my God. Not even going there.
It took him forever to even start to
Acknowledge.
refer to it as COVID in public.
How long did it take for him to even after he was out, to start talking about how it's actually, how the vaccine actually works, even though he got every cocktail in the world given to him? Jimmy Carter's still alive because he has the rights of 45. That's how crazy life is.
November 2019.
Yep.
I was on No Knockouts Radio, and we were talking about just illness in general. And I told him, you better watch out. It's something going on in China, in Wuhan, and it's going to get ugly because they haven't grounded the planes yet. And they were like, oh, it's away in China. And that was part of the problem, because it was in China. And this is a problem with America. If they don't look like us, then it's not our issue. But it quickly became our issue because you didn't do the things that were necessary to keep it isolated into that place. Because by all rights, everything coming out of China, including Americans, should have been grounded.
And all of us that are on this podcast are from international cities. I'm not speaking to the people in Wyoming. I'm not speaking to the people in Nebraska, even though they are free to listen, and I hope they do. But I'm talking about international cities. DC is an international city. You can get food made by people from where you are from, made here. New York, same way. Philly, same way. That's a real issue that people don't think about when they talk about, any of these little infestation movies that we've seen. It's like, oh yeah, it just takes one monkey from here. Okay, if you understand that, don't you understand how crazy this is? That you think you're safe because
Yeah.
everyone around you is from somewhere else. Everyone that comes in and delivers a package from wherever. Remember when we thought everything stayed on cardboard for 3 days? Like, come on. Like, I just talk about all the craziness that went on. And people don't even realize, like, if you understand how worldwide the world is right now, you understand you say something, somebody in Africa can hear it, then why don't you think that something can touch you out of Wuhan? That's the most ridiculous idea in the world. And if I didn't have people like SP, I wouldn't have always understood how it reached the street level. But I definitely understood the generalism of how sickness moves. Like, we've seen this. I don't know why people are. I don't understand why people can't get that.
I think to simplify it, I mean, I feel like this whole COVID thing is polarized because it's been politicized.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So that's why it became so divisive. And I feel like we can blame that on, all the politicians. We can blame that on mainstream media. Because to be honest with you, the average person, isn't out here reading deeply into these things. A lot of people take their cues from what they see on the news, what they see and hear from the politicians and from our leaders. And, COVID was a divisive issue from the start. You had people on the right calling everybody on the left snowflakes because they were scared of, this virus from China. But ultimately, the virus ended up killing hundreds of thousands of people. And still to this very day, there's people out there who just don't take it serious, who still want to chalk it up to being just, it's just a common cold,
It is
or
still
we
killing
just,
hundreds. It's still killing
right.
hundreds of thousands of people.
Exactly. And we just got to live with this thing. I mean, even at this point, right, like Donald Trump came out recently, like maybe like a month or some change ago, even he started encouraging his followers to like, nah, look, take the vaccine, y'all, get this boosted. Like, he's fully vaccinated, he's fully boosted, and not all of his followers, follow suit in that regard. So, it's just been so crazy because again, it was politicized, and that's what made it such a polarizing thing.
Yeah.
Jay is 1,000% right.
And I would like to just blame it on Republicans, but Democrats have a big burden to carry with this too. Because when they were working on the vaccines, Democrats were like, "Oh, don't take it." They made this too fast because Trump was in office.
Right.
And now that Biden's in office, now go ahead, take the vaccine because Biden's in office. It is so stupid.
Right.
Because if you look at the flu vaccine doesn't keep you from getting all flus that ever was created on Earth. It just stops you from getting the flus that you're vaccinated for. But you can still get the flu because flus mutate. That's how viruses work.
And they change the flu shot every year, don't they? Like I know that it's a different flu shot every year. It's not the same. Like the flu shot you got last year isn't the same as the one that you would get this year, so on and so forth.
Because every time they find a new variant, then they add that vaccination to the flu shot. You have swine flu is in the flu shot now. It's a vaccination for swine flu in the flu shot. How many people know that?
I didn't.
But the flu shot,
but it's there because
the flu
swine
shot isn't
flu
treated as
didn't
good as
just
flu.
disappear. You think
But
swine flu just went away? No, you have a vaccine for it. Every time
but
you get a flu vaccine, you get a swine flu vaccine.
but we've never explained to people what vaccines are, unless you are a nerd like me who watches movies and then watches documentaries and then listens to SP and then you listen to other people that do things, then you don't even understand the concept of how these things move all the time. First of all, did anybody explain to America that why it's called COVID-19? Did
Of course
anybody
not.
explain that there's a reason why it's 19? It has already been here. This is just mutated and moved. And I am not even on the level of SP. And I can explain simple things to people about, no, this is a thing that just changed. My father had polio when he was a kid. Do you not understand that polio really doesn't exist anymore? Like, to get into elementary school, to get into kindergarten, there are shots you have to take. You think you better than somebody else because you don't have to take this shot? No, you're out of your mind. Because you wouldn't expose your child to all the things that we already have gotten rid of. But you will expose your child to, nah, don't worry about that. We're just gonna, hang on to our 45's coattails and live and die by this. Preachers out here telling people, you know what I'm saying, pray it away. Are you out of your mind?
Yeah.
Somebody wants to give you
Yeah.
a Learjet, but you don't want your own people to get a shot. Come on now. I don't understand. What we doing?
You know how I feel about religion.
Yeah,
Don't
and I
start.
think again,
You know how I feel about it, so it's all good.
I
But
think
I'm
it,
just
I
saying.
think it, I think it goes back to our collective trauma as Black people. I think that when you're so mistrustful, and that mistrust is justified through years and years and generations of abuse, from this system that's dominated and run by white people, that sometimes we're not able to know or understand up from down.
And not to bring up Chris Rock again, but I think he's the one who said that America is the uncle that and I don't now I retake one to express this view, but only because I love SP and she knows what I mean when I say this. But he said that America is the uncle that abused you as a child but sent you to college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how we feel about America. And I'm sorry, you can't just erase that fucking feeling.
No.
It is exactly how we are going to feel about who you are, because we're always going to look at you sideways and know that, no, you're not good to me. You absolutely harmed me all of my life and continue to harm me. You just simply want to be proud of me when I become the magical Negro. And that's just what we are.
I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Knowledge Board and Marquise and Richard for hanging in with us through this live. I appreciate you so much.
What's up, y'all?
Yeah, I don't think that preachers are even serving the purpose that they are supposed to be serving at this point anyway. But
well, I don't want to group TV with all preachers, because I think that people believe in a thing, whether they are.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter whether you're right about a thing. If you have the best of intentions, I'm with you, and that's fine. But I do understand that, man, some of these people, you got to understand the difference.
I don't have a problem with religion in itself. I really just have a problem with preachers in general. It don't matter what religion you are.
I do have a problem with religion, but I do understand what you're saying.
I have it. You do you, whatever you believe in, but I do have a problem with preachers and just preachers in general. Because I think the most disgusting thing I ever seen is a $4 million church in a $200 neighborhood.
Oh yeah. I mean, well, listen. I know.
But
I'm
that's
pretty
just
sure
me.
we'll. Right. I'm pretty sure we'll get to that. But I wanted
Yeah,
to.
we'll get
I
to
wanted to
that.
broach. I wanted to broach one specific aspect of, like, a lot of the people who accept misinformation and the COVID denials. Like when we talk about a lot of the medical atrocities that's been committed on Black people, like say because we hear a lot of people cite Tuskegee, right? But we don't really discuss the specifics of Tuskegee. In the Tuskegee experiment, the Black people who participated in it, for them, treatment was withheld. They basically just observed how syphilis manifested in these people
They want to
over
see how they would
decades.
die. They want to see how they would die.
Right. They wanted to see what would happen to them. So again, even when you look at the specifics, or when you look at the Henrietta Lacks situation, like when you dive into the specifics, when I compare taking the vaccine to what happened in the Tuskegee experiment, it's not an apples to apples comparison.
Yeah,
And I just don't see the powers that be being that invested in, giving us something that will be to our detriment, and doing all of this, through stopping the economy.
But when your education comes from the dude on the corner on a box, it all
yeah.
sounds the same. You know what I'm saying?
And
Like, I'm not downplaying the fact that we have educated brothers who are giving us information. I'm just simply explaining the fact that it's being explained in shorthand. And that is
yeah.
why there's so much mysticism in between the facts
Mhm.
and the actual understanding, is because if you didn't read the book, if you didn't uh, hear the whole story, then you don't know what DLJ is talking about right there, because he's
Mhm.
1000% right, but we only hear a part. And then we run with that part out of our own fears that are already built in us, and it just expands on that. And then it becomes, oh, well, I shouldn't trust nothing from them.
Yeah,
Them is a fluid structure. Even though
Yeah.
they are still filled with white people of power, please understand, this government thing moves every fucking day.
Mhm.
Every fucking day, the government is changing all the
Yeah,
time. And as somebody who grew up in DC, I see the government differently than somebody else in Middle America or somewhere else, because it's always moving. It's not a static thing. It's not always the same government. That being
yeah.
said, it's not that you need to trust the government. It is that you need to understand, when they decide they're saving their lives too, you need to get on board, dog, because otherwise you
Right.
are missing the fucking boat. And it's real out here. People are dying. You think that CNN's lying about the numbers? Then
Yeah,
check Fox News, because the numbers are still the numbers, even if Fox
yeah.
News is going to lie to you about how it goes down. Understand, the numbers are the numbers. Check the CDC. I work for a company that works for NIH.
Mhm.
I get real time numbers every day. Please understand, I'm a contractor.
Mhm.
Please understand, I get stuff that I can't even forward to anyone else.
Yeah.
So when I got a
I,
chance to talk to SP, I was like, oh, I can have conversations with you because you know what I'm talking about, but you can give me a real life about what's going on that I only see numbers about.
and because I'm also one of those people who digs, so I dig across the world. I'm not one to just get information from the CDC and just be like, okay, this is what I'm going with. No, I'm going to talk to some doctors that's in London, and my doctor friend that's in Australia, and a couple of them that's in Japan, and a few of them that's over in Africa. You know, I'm going to check multiple sources. I'm not just going to go with the CDC, because I am also a Black woman in America whose aunt went in for an appendectomy and got a hysterectomy. So
Right.
I'm going to do my due diligence. Shout out to Morgan. Thank you so much for coming and listening in the live with us. But I just, even before we get off the subject of Black men's health, I do want to take some time and go over some of at least some of the stuff that I think is important. Hold on just a second. That I think Black men should really take into account, and only because I think my brothers are so used to being strong, and my brothers are so used to being stoic, that a lot of the stuff that they are getting sick from, and the reason their life expectancy is so disproportionately lower than everyone else, is because they don't take because of their distrust and because of the cost. I don't think they realize, even there are even people who don't realize that at this point that your yearly exams are free. You don't even have to have insurance to get a yearly exam anymore. You just have to go to the doctor, and that appointment is free for a free full physical. And I don't think that's what Obamacare did.
Yeah. And honestly, I can tell you, like for me, just personal fears. My father died at 55. His father died at 55. At some point as a Black man, well, let me even go back further than that. I remember being 19 at A&T, and I celebrated my 19th birthday with my oldest friend,
Mm-hmm.
whom I have pictures in baby carriages together. Like I've known him all my life. His mom and my mom grew up together in Charleston. I celebrated with him. He was my freshman year roommate, and I swear to God, I cried that day because I did not think I was going to make it that far.
Wow.
And again, coming out of the crack era and everything else, people were just dying left and right.
Mm-hmm.
It's what it is. But that being said, some of that is created in my own mind. Some of
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't really logical to happen to me, even though it was always possible to happen to me. Because you didn't have to be in the game. You didn't have to
Wow.
be anything. Things just happened during this time. This is before Boys in the Hood and
Yeah.
South Central and all that other stuff, just to understand like the time period. And
Mm-hmm.
if you have been programmed into believing that your life expectancy is so low, when you just make it, oh, you figure out I didn't even have a plan for what I was going to do after 25. So you talked about the education thing. I didn't have a 25-year plan. I had an idea of making it. And if I could make it shiny, I was really comfortable with being that person.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't understand, like, oh, what if you think you're going to be 65 and old? What would you do? And if I had relived my life, I probably would have made different decisions if I
Yeah.
thought I was going to be 65 and old. I didn't. I was scared that that wasn't going to happen. I didn't assume that that was going to happen. So I made different decisions. And that goes back to your education argument, to understand that I just didn't really see it in the full breadth of what a life is supposed to be. And that's
Yeah.
an assumption that comes to white people that doesn't always come to Black people. or doesn't come to Black people in a certain situation. And again, like I said, I have two educated parents. Now, my mother did special education because she was a speech therapist, going back to our conversation about people who speak well. Of course, I speak well. I can speak well anywhere. But again, that's not education. That's raising from a mother who, learned how to turn off her Charleston accent at any point in time.
That's
Because we Gullah
exposure.
Geechee people. So there's a Gullah Geechee to everything that I can do and say and hear and understand. That's why Patois never seemed weird to me. I always understood that. People used to ask me if my mother was from Jamaica. I was like, no. When she get pissed off, that Gullah Geechee would come out and people would be like, oh, that's what that is. But no, it's the way that you get exposed to things like DLJ was talking about. And it just changes you in who you are. And then I got to be like 23 and I was like, I don't know who I am. And I had to figure that shit out. And it cost me it cost me a lot of things to figure out who I was. And I put myself in a lot of bad situations, but that's based off my mental. But also, I'm in therapy now. And
Yeah.
other people, like, we still talk about Black men and their weaknesses and their things that they promote, they figure that they're weaker about. Talking to somebody ain't hurting you. I'm talking to another therapist that is HBCU grad who is helping me through my life. A young woman who didn't live through the times I lived through, but understands the tools that are there to help you be a better person. That is important to me in 2022. I don't know that everybody is willing to understand that all of us have PTSD. Black
Yeah.
men, Black women, whatever it is. And you can see it when you look at us online talking to each other so disrespectfully, like we're talking to every Black man or every Black woman. And that is
Exactly.
killing us right now.
Exactly.
We can't be united if we don't also understand that you are mixing with a broken person. And guess what? All the white people are broken too. The only difference is that the history of our country gives them more cushion than us.
Yep. Well said.
So that kind of goes back to the point that education levels and income doesn't change the health status in Black men. Um, Black men face higher rates of discrimination and depression. So education levels have nothing to do with health outcomes for Black men.
I wish
Uh,
we could look up the depression levels of the 1%, because I swear they're high as hell. And everybody wants to be them, but doesn't understand what it takes to be them.
yeah,
Jay-Z
but
is just Jay-Z. Don't think that everybody is Jay-Z and Puffy. It's plenty of people who are rich as hell and depressed in a motherfucker. And I'm talking about just Black people. Go to white people, I swear to God, they killing themselves on same high levels as broke people.
Oh no,
but
I
for
feel
Black
you on that big
men,
time. Because one thing that I say, right? Listen, a man that's 10 times richer than me isn't necessarily 10 times happier than me.
1000%.
yeah, especially for Black men, because even when they get into those positions of a Jay-Z, there's a certain amount of isolation that comes with that, right? And it's an isolation, and you are now other in a bubble of privilege, but you don't enjoy all of those privileges that are afforded to the people of the same hierarchy and status that you are, because there is still racism, even with, especially within the 1%.
And the thing is, white people have lied so much about what upper echelons means that they don't even acknowledge, and Black people are just finding out because we're just getting to that level of wealth, that it sucks to be alone at the top.
Yeah.
Everyone tries to act like we want to be in the 1%. Great. That's wonderful. You keep selling Black people and Candace Owenses of the world on how we just did it wrong and all we need to do is be like them. No, they hate it too. Because yes, you are one of one in that way, even though you're never one of one. You're one of one in terms of people all being different. But please understand that there's an example for you everywhere in history if you understand history. If you don't understand history, then you think that you're special in your pain. And we don't teach people that your pain is not special.
No.
Not to say that it's not important, because it's the opposite of not being important. But everyone goes through pain. And if you can understand that pain is human and universal, then we can treat each other amicably. But we don't, because we always want to say, yeah, but I'm from Brooklyn. Oh, yeah, but I'm from DC. Oh, but yeah, but I'm from Baltimore. Oh, but yeah, I'm from Nebraska. No, pain is human. And understand that when you are the child who can't learn how to walk and is having a hard time and they want to cry, that's exactly how you feel. It's the same level of pain that you feel when you are going through a hardship in your life. Pain is universal. It is not something that is better or worse than anyone else. Until people understand that, we won't be humans. We won't be taken seriously. We won't even have a chance at looking at ourselves and saying, I see that you don't see me as human, but I am human. And I'm going to take myself as seriously as everything else.
Shout out, Jonathan, for coming in. I appreciate you coming in and listening to us discuss these issues. Um, I wanted to just point out just a couple of things that my brothers can do. Just to take care of yourself, because I don't really think people I don't really think people know that Black men, 45% of Black men, 45% of Black men have high blood pressure. 45%. That number is astronomical. And it is something that you yourself can monitor at home.
And it's attached to anxiety.
Yeah, an optimal blood pressure is 120/80. With just that little bit of information, you can go buy a $29 wrist cuff and just check your blood pressure every day. It's simple. You just wrap it around your wrist, press a button, that's it. Hold it like this. Blood pressure's done in a minute. You have put it down. First thing when you get up, you put it down in a notebook, and then you have a record of any fluctuations in your blood pressure. That is a lot of information to take to a doctor. The second thing is checking your blood sugar. Blood sugar poke, check it. You can do that once a month. You don't even have to do that every day. You can do that once a month. You just jot down the numbers. And that way, when you go into the doctor, you have, hey, this is what my blood pressure's been for the month. This is what my blood sugar's been every month for the past 2 months. When you go into the doctor for your yearly exam, always make sure they do an A1C. An A1C is an average of your blood glucose levels. And it is an average of your blood glucose level over a period of time. So a regular A1C of 5.7% to 6.4%, that's pre-diabetic. And if you know that, something as small as changing your diet can change the outcome, because diabetes is something that leads to kidney failure. It can lead to heart disease. It can lead to amputation of limbs. So just knowing those numbers and being able to give those numbers to a physician, just those two, can be remarkably life-saving. You should also every month without fail be checking your testicles. You should know what your testicles feel like. And if you don't know what your testicles feel like, then you need to start knowing what your testicles feel like. It is very important that you know that, because the top 3 cancers for Black men are prostate, lung, and colorectal cancers. It is so important that you check these. These are minor things that you can do just yourself. You get out the shower, tap around down there, you feel any lumps, okay, you know you should go to the doctor. You should get that checked. If you feel a lump, you should be checking that out. There is no reason that you don't know what your body feels like. When you go in for a annual exam, they should also be doing a testicular exam every year. Every year when you go in for a physical, they should be doing a testicular exam. And at the age of 45, you need to make sure that you're getting a prostate exam. And if anybody in your family has had prostate cancer, you should be doing that way earlier. It shouldn't be something that you put off, and it shouldn't be something that you wait for. That's something that needs to be done after a certain age, definitely. But if you have any history on either side of the family of prostate cancer, you need to be having that checked, because Black men die from prostate cancer at a higher rate than anyone else, gender or color. And cholesterol should also be checked yearly, and your cholesterol should be 200 milligrams per deciliter. And that's a simple, it's a blood test that can be done with your A1C. It can be done with a CBC. You should be these are simple things that can be done yearly, and it could save your life. And making sure you show up for that 1-year physical exam can be life-saving. Because I had an aunt who was fine the year before, and the next year she had a small lump that she didn't feel, but her doctor felt when he went in and checked her breast. Those are simple things that can be done, and it will do so much to change outcomes. Changing your diet. I'm Southern. I'm a butter person, and I don't want no margarine. I want damn butter. But I only have butter every so often. I don't eat butter with everything. You have to change. You have to change, because you're worthy of being alive. And I think a lot of this comes from not feeling worthy of being taken care of.
I think you're right about that. I also think that America lied to us about the food groups and the triangle of food and everything when we were kids, and they did commercials about it and about how milk does a body good and all these things that we now know are like, no, that'll kill you. You, you now know that like the human body is not really meant for cow udder milk, even if you process it or whatever, until a certain time. Like it, like we just don't. We've been taught about cereal and about things like, yes, the greens they were right about, but so many things we just were lied to, and we just, if you're already mistrusting and then you figure out that you were lied to, what do you do? And unless you have educated people giving you the information that you trust, you're gonna go with what grandma said. You're gonna go with what granddad said. And understand that as intelligent and as loving and smart as your grandparents may have been, they are woefully ignorant to the things that we are availed to now. It just is that way.
And you also have to be aware that you need to check your resources, because pork, the other white meat, is also a contributor to the heart association. So when you see some of these recommendations, see who's funding these people.
That's
Check.
exactly what I meant. Is
Always
that you look at
follow the money.
yeah.
That has always been my motto. If somebody tells me something, I want to know who's funding this, who's funding these. I want to know
Bread and corn and milk have all been associated with buying their way into the food that we're supposed to eat as Americans, even though you can look at Asians and see, oh, just the Mediterranean, same way. You can look at how their diet just keeps them in better regulation than ours as America.
Marquise, don't make me come and hit you with my car. I'm not gonna stop eating meat. I'm Southern.
Yeah, I'm Southern too. I'm definitely going to eat some meat.
Yeah, I ain't giving meat up either.
Nah,
yeah,
nah.
but I do. I
But
cut
I
back
will
on
take
the
a
amount
vegan
of
day
red
when I
meat
need
that
to.
I eat, and
Yeah,
I stay near farms, so it's nothing to go, to the farm down the street and somebody bring a chicken neck and pluck it and you just go pick up a fresh chicken. It's way different here
yeah,
than it is, in some places. I see the cows out in the field eating grass and they not being taken to the slaughterhouse and standing in
yeah,
their
yeah.
own feces for 17 hours and then hung up by their neck, and then it's it's more than it's not always the meat. It is the way things are processed nowadays. It is like a turn cycle. It's just they put these animals on the belt, and that's just what it is. And they're filling them up with steroids, which is why we have 8-year-olds with breasts like um, a 40-year-old woman, because they're filling these animals up with steroids and antibiotics, which is why we now have a increased resistance to antibiotic therapy. All of these things are contributors to, and just thinking, how often are you able to afford to buy organic in the financial space that you're in? So imagine somebody who makes so much more less than you and then look at the health outcomes, and you realize that it's kind of a setup.
It's 1000% a setup. And I can remember going to the grocery store in Southeast DC as opposed to now where I live in Upper Marlboro, PG County. And PG County is like, has always been throughout everyone's life that's here. Top 3 or 5 most affluent neighborhoods, communities for Black people in America. Lots of Black professionals, whatever it is. But we don't have a place to sit down and eat. This is Upper Marlboro. You can Google most affluent Black communities in America. PG County is going to show up in it 3 times in 3 different cities. But because I've looked it up and I've Googled it. But the thing is, like, we have new housing, even have some decent supermarkets, but there's nowhere to go and just sit and eat a meal with your family. It's just weird things like that go on that, well, it's not weird. It just is what it is. And it's like, oh, I see how you invested. You invested in things that made money for the politicians, where they would have new housing and build these more and more expensive houses and things like that. But you didn't think about the family. You didn't think about how you were going to have, and we're surrounded by farms and things like that that are adjacent, I should say, not surrounded, but because I'm also 15 minutes from DC, but they just don't tell you how you should have a better life. They just tell you how to be more affluent. And that's a part of our existence. You know what I'm saying? Like, and we fought hard to get here, but then it's like, shit, we can't sit down at a nice restaurant and eat a well-cooked meal from farm fresh things. It's nothing but fast food and pickup food around here.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like that
Food desert.
like that Crook song.
Food deserts, yes.
Liquor store church. Liquor store, liquor store, liquor store church. Liquor store, liquor store, liquor store church. That's how, you know, I go through my old neighborhood. That's what I see. I see a church, and then I see the liquor store, and then I see a church, and then I see a liquor store, liquor store, liquor store church, and then you see the corner store, which has more liquor, and then a church. But there's
that's nothing. How Newark is for my whole. Yeah, that's where my grandmother lived. She still lives there in Newark. Everything is just liquor store church, and obviously some of these are bodegas, but still, like, you just walk and all you're gonna see is the exact same thing you just described. That's Baltimore, that's DC, that's Newark, that's Philly, that's Camden. I don't care where you go, it's going to be exactly the same way. And why is that? Huh?
Oh no, I gotta hop off, guys. I had a 2-hour time limit tonight for my lady.
All right.
We supposed to Netflix and chill.
But Netflix and chill.
Be Netflix and ill. It's all good.
Nah, man, I appreciate being here with y'all though, man, and I can't wait till we do this again. Very enlightening. I'm glad to be surrounded by such geniuses on Twitter.
Well, I hope
Jay,
you
I already follow you, so I don't need to try to follow you now. You know who I am. I follow you anyway. So I always keep up with you. It's all good.
All right,
appreciate you.
I'm holler at y'all. Y'all have a good evening.
I hope you can join us next month.
Oh, I will. I definitely will. You can count on that.
Thank you so much.
I'm coming back for this.
Y'all take it easy.
1,000.
Peace. So yeah, I think food deserts are a big issue. And even with the people are starting to think about that kind of stuff. we've always had gardens or access to gardens. We've always had access to fresh fruits and vegetables. Um, and it's just so much of that has been lost just trying to survive. I think all of those things are a major contributor to where we are now. The question is, how do we start to reverse that?
Well, for one, we have to take some pride in the fact that I don't care if you're from Brooklyn or if you're from North Dakota, there is fresh fruit and vegetables around you if you look for it. The problem is it's not convenient. And we have to try to be better about, especially living in this Steve Jobs and Elon Musk era. We can get things shipped into us easier than we think, but we don't trust what's coming to us. We don't trust what we see. Like I live right down not right down the street, but in close enough proximity to farms. And they always have a little sign out, hey, we're doing this, we got corn, we got whatever. Do I ever stop? No, because I'm scared of them white people. That's me. I have to be better about I can bring better things to my household. I can, and my wife is very health conscious and takes care of us very well in terms of because she loves to cook. I need to do better on, hey, if the white people buy it, just like we talked about with the vaccine, if the white people are buying this, why am I not going to the same people and getting this food? That's a trust issue that is hard to shake. We have to be better about that.
And I think but it's that's kind of different for us, right? Because even we have to acknowledge that we have a certain amount of privilege, right?
Yep.
And we can say that it's convenience, but there are people whose bus fare is to get to work and get home. They don't have that extra to catch a bus and go to the farmer's market or go outside of their general vicinity to go get fresh fruits and vegetables. And this is what I learned just looking this up. In our communities, the big supermarkets, the vegetables that we get on the poor side of town are normally
They're
the
trash.
vegetables that are about to turn that was in the
Yep.
richer side of
They go
town,
bad real
and
fast.
they
They go
moved
bad
it
real fast.
to our side of town.
I live in what's supposed to be the good side of town, and certain places, stuff will go bad in 3 days. Other places, stuff will hang out and be good for 2 weeks. It's just different. And when I said what I said previously, I was talking about how we will call out for pizza, but not go to Amazon and get something brought to us for that'll be good for the week. That's what I mean by making different choices. And don't get me wrong, when you got kids and all that, that's not all like possible. Like I do understand that I'm speaking from a privileged point of view, but I just know that we make decisions in certain ways because man, it's just easier to stop by Popeyes than it is to on Monday decide that I'm going to get some fresh stuff brought in to me from organic foods or whatever. And that $50 would be better served for me than the $50 for the pizza I got or the chicken I got on Friday. And part of that is us, but another part of it is like bro was talking about, food deserts. Like, it's too
Mm-hmm.
easy to be comforted by the fatty, non-healthy foods than it is to just make better decisions. And when we really don't know what we're talking about, like you just ran off numbers that all of us should know. I need a spreadsheet because I'm not going to remember those numbers. I'm not going to remember what to take to my doctor. Now, obviously, I'll call you because I have your phone number, but that's my blessing. That's not like something that everybody else knows. Like, I have that access. What are they going to do? They're going to remember to call you when it's time for them to go to their doctor, or and like you said, we're only going to go when we're sick. So, what are we doing? And that's a hard thing, man. It's hard. Like, that's a conversation between me and you on another pod or whatever, or another situation, to rebuild trust even though you've been violated. Like, how do you do that? And that's
Yeah.
a thing that's not about black women, it's not about black men. Honestly, it's not even about poor white people. They just assume that because America's America, they're going to be okay, and they move in a
Mm-hmm.
certain way. Like, they're just not looked at in a certain way. I
Yeah.
can look on TV and see white people and see their bone structure and be like, "Oh, you come from poor white trash." Yeah, I can look at your bone structure and see how you lived and where you come from or whatever it is. Like, you can do that, but white people aren't taken that way. Poor white trash white people can escalate right up that ladder
Mm-hmm.
before black men and black women can, and that's what it is. Like, it's
I
hard.
I think I think that's part of that fallacy of the American dream, because it has convinced so many people to vote against their best interest, because one day, if I work hard enough, if I pull myself up by my bootstraps, even if I'm
This is the
barefoot and
Joe the plumber argument. This is the Joe the plumber
when
argument, right? From
yeah,
remember when he was out there and he was a superstar, and then he lost his
yeah,
business and wasn't shit again. Yeah,
they sold this bag of goods that everybody can make it, and no, the hell you can't. Not
not even
everybody's
close.
going to make it. Somebody's going to have to flip the burgers. That's just the fucking rules. How do you it? I hate that. I think that is one of the
It's the American lie.
bullshit narratives that I hate the most about this country.
Yeah,
The White House on the Hill. No. Sometimes that
white picket
White
fence.
House on the Hill is full of rapists and murderers who will steal your
Yeah,
gold teeth out of your mouth and sell it to your mama.
yeah,
Sometimes that's who's
yeah,
in that White House on the Hill.
yeah, yeah. That's real. And all right, so I'm gonna switch gears just a little bit because I think you and I are gonna have a good time with this conversation about, and it might not be tonight, but it can be whenever it's going to be. Um, the way that black men and black women talk to each other on the internet, because this is how you meet people in this time of life, is through the internet. And that's not even a problem for me because I went from my ego saying, "Oh, you got to know how to talk to a woman. You have to," yeah, but understand that the same way you walk up to somebody because they look pretty is the same way you talk to somebody in their DMs when they look pretty on IG. I had to take my ego out of the fact that I used to meet everyone in person and change that to, hey, you meet somebody, you're talking to them, and you get to know them. Okay. And then you break up because, first of all, you didn't know who you are, they didn't know who they were, and you shit on the whole group. even though black people marry and
Mm-hmm.
get divorced at the exact same rate as everybody else. This is, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
not propagating Kevin Samuels to be something that he's not. He is
He's an
a
ass.
soothsayer that people just simply need to understand what he is. He is not trying to fix anything. He is simply a dude who's saying, do you understand who you are and do you remember who you were? And anybody taking him any further than that is trying to be preached to by another preacher, and he's not a preacher. He's just trying to
Yeah,
say,
and he's
people,
not a
understand that
truth
there's love for you at whatever level you are. Can we just get to people understanding who they are? Everybody wants to be 1%. Everybody can't be fucking 1%. It's not the way life goes.
Yeah, I don't think it's the trying to be 1%. It is the devaluing of people because they've actually lived the life, right? Because
Okay.
I've heard the um I'm supposed to take care of you and you gotta use womb, you gotta use vagina. Well, you gotta use dick. I ain't saying shit about that. So who the hell are you to talk about somebody else's used vagina that you are more than happy to use? You just don't want the responsibility of taking care of the rest of that person. And if that's the
But I
case,
think
that's the
that,
case. But you don't have to devalue the other person in order
no,
to
you do
make
not.
yourself seem like you're some kind of high quality man. No, you're a dick.
And that, but that's the problem, is that it gets, when it comes in spurts, I think people hear exactly what you're saying. When I've ever taken the time, because it takes way too much time, to listen to what he does, I understand it better. But I'm not. Let's get off of him. It's not about him. What I'm saying is the ideals that are being propagated now are about, in my estimation, when are we going to see each other as who we are, as opposed to who we are on IG, who we are on Twitter, who we are on Facebook, and just look at the fact that, we do love each other, right? Like, the numbers say that,
Yeah.
life says that. But what happens is we look at videos, and, well, obviously we're past the video stage of who we are now. Now we're on to the internet version of who we are.
Mm.
Stop believing that everybody needs to be the rapper and the princess, because it used to
Yeah.
be the king and the queen. It used to be, 5% of from the 80s and the 90s, about how we show love to our queens and our kings and everything else. And it was about taking care of each other. Now it's about, how can I floss on them? And we are hurting each other so badly because we
Mm-hmm.
keep teaching our boys and our girls that we're supposed to be something that is not normal, not average. And people give average a really bad showing, because average is really, really good. And people don't understand that about life. Average is really good.
Yeah.
It's so
Real
easy to
love.
get to bad. It's
Real
so
love
easy to
is
get to bad.
real love is boring as shit. Real love is so predictable.
I've never heard
I
it spoken
know,
better. 1000%.
I know that I know when I walked into a room before my husband died, I was the most loved woman in that room. I knew every day when I came home, he was going to be sitting on the couch with his Xbox, and that is what it was going to be, and I was okay with that. As long as he was happy and wasn't
And why
fucking
is
with
that
me,
bad?
I ain't even mad at you.
And why is that
I,
bad? But nowadays it looks like that's bad. It looks like, oh well, how come we don't go to Greece? How come we don't go to Poconos? How come we don't go to, like? And I'm not even talking about women. I'm just talking about men's expectations of what they supposed to be buying Birkins and women's expectations of how they're supposed to be like docile and Asian
Yeah,
like on TV. All these things are extreme.
fallacy.
And the
They're
thing is,
fallacy.
if you want,
Um,
yeah,
sometimes I'd be just sitting on the couch and all of a sudden he just turned on the music and we dance in the living room. When I say boring, I don't mean yawn boring. I mean I didn't have
you mean normal.
nobody was.
You mean
I
normal.
knew I didn't have to worry about coming home and him punching me in my eye and we have to fight. And then I had to hide my kid under the bed to make sure that he didn't kick her too. You know, that shit is not love. You know, it's not love to have somebody who going out cheating on you, or you gotta hunt down because it's 4 o'clock in the morning and they haven't called. That's some shit is just not love. Some shit is just
But we just had
disrespect.
an example. But we just had an example of a chick who got dropped by Fenty because she said that her man shows he loves her by. I don't want to throw out all the names because people can look it up. They know exactly who I'm talking about. You probably know who I'm talking about. But I don't want to give credence to what they're talking about. But this chick was
Mhm.
like, yo, I know my man loved me because when I got pissed off at him, I would just act like I was about to leave. And if he ain't pull out a gun on me or something, then he knew that then I know that he loved me just to
Wow.
make sure that I stayed, even though I wasn't gonna leave anyway. I'll send it to you later if you don't know the story, but yeah, no,
Wow.
this is a
I don't know
real
that
thing that just
story.
happened, and this girl was on Savage Fenty as a model, and Rihanna dropped her right away. Like, hold up, you don't understand that domestic violence is real? You work for me? Come on now, go ahead and get you out of here. Like that's the dumbness of this person talking about, and people, and she was on her live, spouting all this stuff, and it was like you are so in your ego that you don't understand that you are working for somebody, getting a check from somebody who went through real domestic violence. Okay,
Um,
I don't know what I need to tell you.
I don't know if that is necessarily ego. Um,
I don't know what that is. It's psychosis to me,
the
but I'm just
problem
saying.
is,
I'm trying to be kind.
I think the problem is when you don't know what love is or don't know what it looks
Yes,
like,
yes,
you kind of accept um, whatever is thrown your way.
but people will
And
take flaws when they don't
sometimes when
understand what
you're
love
used,
looks like.
even for every beautiful model in this world, it's a motherfucker that's sick of looking at her. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
It
vice
just
versa.
is
Like
what it is.
for every beautiful
Yeah,
person, every
that's with
person that looks like
anybody. If I had to
they
sit and
are
look
a
at,
god on earth, there's somebody who's sick of that energy.
yeah,
Yeah, that's real.
yeah, yeah. I was married for 10 years, and if I didn't have to go to work every day, I probably would have killed him in his sleep because you just need those moments of separation. You know what I mean? You need those moments. You need time to miss each other. And
Sis,
anybody
The
who
Rock,
has
The Rock
made
and Halle
you,
Berry are both divorced. The Rock and Halle Berry are both divorced. You can't tell me there are two more beautiful people in the world. I don't care what your association is or anything. You can't tell me that The Rock and Halle Berry are not two of the most beautiful people from male and female in the world. Both divorced. Halle's been in lots of things and out of lots of things. Rock has been in lots of things and out of lots of things. It is what it is. It's not just the look. And people got to be able to
No,
understand that it's bigger than just flossing on the gram.
yeah, that uh, I don't I have never been a person who has been looks have never been focused to me. Um and that's more because I am who I am. If you can't make me laugh, I'm probably not going to be interested long. It doesn't matter how good you look. You know, if I'm not laughing the majority of the time we're together, then I'm probably going to lose interest pretty quick. And that's just me. I have the sense of humor of a 12-year-old prepubescent boy. I like a good penis joke and
Well,
uh wet willy and a fart joke
a good
every
fart
now and
joke
again. I
will
think
get you
that
there.
shit's hilarious.
So now I know exactly why you like me. All right, cool. We now we know where we're from. But no, like that's again, you're right. It's about the process and uh the really good things of life. It's this quality of life. It's
Yeah.
not the high tones, it's not the low tones, and that's not to dismiss either one of those. But as somebody who deals with depression, I don't deal with the highs and the lows very much. I stay in the mids. And I have to work through the idea of learning how to do the highs and the lows. I can't shit on my wife's highs when I don't feel the same. I have to understand that I'm not a I'm not a sociopath. I do
Mhm.
understand happiness and sadness. I just simply need to be able to expose myself to that because I
Mhm.
protected myself from highs and lows because of my own pain.
Mhm.
And I know we'll get to this on many other talks. I don't want to bring anybody down. I just want to remember that,
But
yo, we got
that's
to
an
be able to
important
talk to each other like we both have pain.
part of this because I don't think men always are expressive of their pain because they've been taught to be so stoic and they've been taught to always be strong. And even when you ask, even now that women are asking men to express their feelings,
They
um,
don't mean that.
what it's not that they don't mean it, it's just that men don't know how to
But
express
what I would say is
that kind of pain
that's true.
because they haven't been allowed
That's
to do
true.
so.
But that's the thing. When it actually comes out, then you get a, oh, you sound like a bitch. And again, guess what? We both have pain. So guess what? It will
Exactly.
sound similar. And if you don't understand that, then you are judging someone on their sexuality, masculinity, femininity, as opposed to on their humanity. And we are going to always harm each other when we think that there are boxes to pain. And that's why it's hard for when we deal with white people or others. Let me just say others.
Yeah.
Because they're
Because
never going to see you as humans if you can't decide that you're human.
and I think that's a major problem because I am one of those people who um sense it, pain.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because I've had so much of it that I'm very sensitive to others. Um, but if you don't show me that you have emotions, then I'm probably going to step back anyway because that's going to come out somewhere.
Yeah, you look like a sociopath.
Yeah, it's going to
You're
be a
not a real
hurtful
person
word,
if you know
or
that.
yeah, it's going to be a hurtful word, or a blow up all of a sudden. And I'm very sensitive to that kind of thing. So one thing I really appreciated about my husband is he knew that about me enough to tell me, okay, this is what's going on with me. I'm gonna need about an hour away from you. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Take what you need, because I think we both pretty fuming right now. So go ahead and take what you need. I had a bad day at work.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to talk
Yeah.
about it now, but when I'm ready to talk about it, I'll let you know.
And
Those
I'm not
kind of things.
mad in the way that no, but I mean, I'm not mad in the way that I want to do something to harm you. And when I say do something to harm you, I don't mean physical. I don't mean mental. I mean, like, I'm not going to find someone else to make me feel better.
Yeah,
I simply need space. And black
exactly.
people, god damn it, don't understand needing fucking space, because you are
Yeah,
born with an anger in you that is bestowed upon you by the nation you grew up in. It will give you some things. And I don't
exactly.
care if your mama taught you, if your father taught you, if your grandmother taught you, whoever it is. Understand, America's always going to be looking at you in a certain way. And if you don't really understand that, then you don't know that, no, it's love when somebody tells you, no, just give me some room. That's love.
Yeah,
That's real understanding, because that's humanity. You are not purposed to be on the satchel hip of anyone for all the time. There is going to be a time when that person needs their thing, whatever their thing is. And I hear women say, and I'm not shitting on women, I just want to make the point that
yeah,
that man has a video game. There's nothing more non-combative to you than a dude who just wants to play a video game. He ain't looking at IG and lusting over somebody. He ain't in somebody DMs. He is not going out trying to find some active vagina out there. This man just wants to love you, pay bills, show you attention, and play a video game on his downtime. As
hmm,
men go, it's a pretty easy way to live a life.
oh yeah, I
Just saying,
enjoyed it.
like, if you want to pick and choose what it is that you live with, the dude who just want to play a video game and stay in your house, whether it's yours, his, ours, whatever, who just wants to sit there and play a video game, you got to understand, we all got vices. If that's his vice, you better learn to live with that shit. That's some beautiful shit right there, because he ain't want to go
Yeah, that
nowhere.
ain't a bad vice to have, because I've had the other vices too, and I take a video game over over a whole lot of different issues, anger issues, mama issues, all of that
All that
stuff.
shit.
A video game is.
Light work.
Do you know how much stuff I got done while he was playing the Xbox?
But why don't people see it as an opportunity? Like, just do your thing. Matter of fact, if you find a game that y'all can play together, it'll be fun
No,
too.
I don't
But
want to do that.
I'm not advocating for video games. I'm just making the point
Yeah,
that
I
when you
stopped
look at
playing
the
video
scope
games
of
after
what's out
Atari.
there for you, and I'm with you on that. I love video games, but that's not even my point. It's just the idea of, if every human has a vice, and you are looking at the perspectives that are out there, please understand, anything
Hmm.
new is going to be hard to deal with, because you're dealing with, and we're grown people. So once you get past 30 and you finding somebody new, please understand there's something wrong with them. Not because they're crazy, not because of something
Yeah,
wrong, something tremendously wrong about them, but understand, if you ain't hooked up by 30, something happened. And there's a reason why something happened to you. There's a reason why something happened to them. It doesn't make them unacceptable as a mate. It doesn't make you understand that, oh, you still haven't figured this out yet. I got married at 40 with somebody I met when I was 19. I understand that there's still no guarantees to that because there are gaps in our development. But people have to understand how to speak to people, how to get to know people, and how hard that is. Like, it takes time to get to know people.
Yeah, don't that.
And they don't know where you come from.
Yeah.
Oh God, you gotta put in work. Life is not a novel about meeting someone and love at first sight. That's some bullshit that white people sold you. That's not real life. IG is not how everything works.
Yeah, I'm single at I'm single at 50.
My dog
So
wants to be in my dog wants to be in the video, sis, as you can see. She just wants to be in the video because
yeah, I'm single at
karma
50
is
and
special like that.
it's some weirdos out there. I ain't even gonna lie to you.
Oh, 1000%. Because over time,
That's
you're
a
gonna get
cutie
to be a
pie.
weirdo. She is.
Yeah,
But
no,
you're gonna get to be a weirdo
it's some
over
weird
time
stuff
by
going
yourself.
on out there.
I know I'm weird.
It's some weird
I
stuff
just know
going on
that,
out there. I'm telling you.
yeah, dead ass. So is Nev just
I
not
knew
gonna
that
talk, or
right
we
off.
just gonna do this?
When I said I was gonna start dating, I looked and I was like, oh, these are newfangled men.
Yo,
These ain't the men that when you've been married a long time and then
yeah,
you look back and I was like, I don't remember people being like this. I don't remember this weirdness. I don't remember people sending you pictures of their feet on vacation. That's some weird shit. You know, people are weird.
yeah. But also, I do understand that
But
with a background explanation, lots of things aren't weird. It's just the way you grew up, the way you saw the world. And it would be different if I just knew why. The problem is we don't tell why. We just show a picture and do things. We just send a dick pic or send some breasts and send a booty shot from
yeah,
a really bad bathroom. And it's like, what are you doing? That's your intro?
yeah, and
So I just take the shell out.
I'm still in the uh mindset of being a woman. I uh I, I want you to open the door and um I want you to call me. I'm not used to calling people and like, you want to go out on a date? You know, that's
Yeah,
I'm just I don't know how that works. So
yeah,
it's different being older and trying to navigate this arena. So yeah, if
yeah.
you are in a relationship and you think they're boring, whew, you don't know how
People
lucky
don't
you
know
are
how
to
good
just
boring
have a
is.
little boring in your life because
People don't know how good boring is.
Jesus, this is
Yeah,
yeah, I pray for boring.
yeah.
I
All right. So
pray
look,
for boring.
I
Yeah, so
know that I know we did this thing right. Um, I hope that you enjoyed me. I definitely
yeah,
enjoy you. I know you all about to wrap up and everything. I just want to tell you I love you. You know I
yeah,
care about you. You're my sister, and you mean the world to me. So, and that's off something that I've never met you in physical, but in the mental and in the ethos, you know who you are, Queen. You are that person, and happy belated birthday. All love to
Thank
you.
you.
You know who you are to me. You know what I mean?
And I love you back. Uh, it's been a journey, and it's been an exciting journey to s- spend time with people who um, accepted and allowed me to understand who I was at this point in my life and not judge me as I navigated my way through it. So when you are lucky enough to find that kind of core group, the love is so real. Um, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in to Powerful Impact. I hope you get as much out of this conversation as we did. Know that it would, if you ever want to have us discuss a topic, or even if you want to join the conversation, just DM me. You know my Twitter angle 2346. You can hit me up or hit me up on um, Powerful Impact on Twitter or Powerful Impact on IG and YouTube, and we can have these conversations. I think these conversations are important for us to have as a family.
Oh, you got to
And
put this
this,
on YouTube. You got to put this on YouTube. Like, you got to
oh, it's
put this
going to
on
go
YouTube.
straight to YouTube as soon as this is over. As soon as
Hey,
I press
send me the
in,
link
it'll
because
be
I want to
uploaded.
send it out to everybody. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. I want to be able to put it out to everybody because real black people talking about real black things, and you know this ain't the last time we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this into infinity. Like for real, you know I rock with you, and I love the fact that we are talking about important things, and on our personal channels we talk about about important things. I also want people to be able to expand their groups. I remember when I want to say at like just over 100 or something, maybe 140 followers. And then I met a dude online, Mark J. Burton, our brother.
hmm
And over the next year, I started having so much fun on Twitter and having a great ass time with people that just heard our voices together. It was my voice that
yeah,
I felt got out there to more people, not because I was more special, but because I found other people that I felt were special. And we didn't take each other more seriously than we needed to, but we did understand that there was seriousness in everything we were saying, even when they were jokes. And people could understand and take that. And then when I look back and it was like, oh, now I'm like over almost 900. It is not because I'm any more special or different than I was before. It's because I hung out with really good people who other people found were really good people. And then that's just how things go. And that's how your podcast, that's how your friend group, that's how everything expands into better things, is because you
yeah,
have good people around you. And nobody
yeah.
propagated
I've been,
anything, nobody tried to pretend to be something else. It was just fun. And I love our fun as friends, as love, as people who love each other, as people who love black people, and can
yeah,
just talk about our issues and be able to expand the conversation because we love our people.
and we love all of our people. There's never
No
any
doubt.
um, judgment, because how can you judge someone else's pain? And how can you judge someone else's success? It's just seeing that nobody is throwaway. Everybody has value. And with that,
1000%.
we are out. Thank you so much again for the people who tuned in, and we'll see you on the flip side. Peace.
Shout out to Nipsey.
Shout
Peace.
out.